Well, I'm Allan Dale from Gale Force Wins, and this is the Harbour Strong podcast. Everybody's conversations matter here. These are important things that we're discussing, and we're getting to know one another along the way. And on that note, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Earle. I'm president of NAPE, the largest public and private sector union in the province. Been president now about 10 years. Before that, I worked in labour relations, and before that, I worked in healthcare. My last profession that I worked in was a paramedic.
Jerry, you got a busy job, it sounds like to me.
Quite busy, and some of the chats here today saying one time we talk about things change weekly. Well, the environment we're in now, things pretty well change every hour, so it's quite challenging.
Busy job, but yet you take the time to come out here today and talk about men's mental health. Why is that important to you?
If anything we can do in our roles as leaders is to help somebody, influence somebody, make a difference. I think it's important. I say step away sometimes, use your positions in these areas and talk about men's mental health. I know going back in years it was almost taboo to even talk about men's mental health. I think it's more important today because your mental health is as important as your physical health. So it impacts what you do. And so like the more of us that talk about mental health, I believe it'll benefit somebody. And if we positively impact one person, we're making a difference.
Jerry, is there an event in your life, a life experience that caused you to flip your perspective around mental health, and what is that?
Even from the role that I work in now, I see, because like I said, we represent a wide variety of professionals. I see the impact that mental health is having on some of them. And like I said, going back to myself, I worked as a paramedic, and I know some very specific events, even though some of those are 30 years ago. I can tell you to the very fine detail of what occurred. They don't go away. They come back, and like I say, it depends on how you deal with them. I've seen some in different professions, whether it be in our correctional officers or paramedics now, that have died by suicide because of the impact of the work and what the resources, like talking about what's necessary. And I believe the more we talk about it, the more we destigmatize it. We should be as comfortable talking about mental health, men's mental health, as we would be talking about diabetes. That's where we need to get with that comfort level that we look at it no different, because that's the problem. I've stood in some function. I said, if I stood here today with my arm in a cast, everybody would ask me, am I okay? How are you doing? But if I stand somewhere with a mental health injury, nobody knows unless I actually tell them.
Do you feel that men are more vulnerable when it comes to mental health?
From what I see and from what I've researched, yes. I think some of it comes down to, and even going back, I'll use myself. I remember with some occurrences, what was said to me was, suck it up. The expectation was, because I was a man, that I should be able to handle this differently. But mental health doesn't discriminate. It doesn't choose genders. Like I said, it doesn't treat men any different, women or some just gender diverse. Like it doesn't discriminate. So, but again, for some reason, I found, I know, again, I speak for myself, I was often said to me, just suck it up, move on.
Jerry, you know, you can't have the role that you have as president of the largest union without being a guy that's always looking for solutions and looking for a way forward. Where do you see the way forward with men's mental health?
First of all, doing things like just talking about it more, discussion with stakeholders, what changes we can make. We should have it where, let's say, we're comfortable talking about it. We have to talk about it because too often mental health was talked about in the background, especially when it came to men. But I believe the more we talk about it, like I said, if we can impact the life of one person positively, because when I look back, had we done that for some people, I believe we could have made a difference. That's in the rear view mirror. So looking forward, I believe there's things that we can do that can positively impact. And like I said, let's talk to stakeholders, multiple stakeholders, trying to have everyone on the same page that we can make a positive difference to a day where, like I say, no stigma whatsoever. So you and I could have a conversation about mental health just as we sit there and talk about if I had diabetes. It should be no different, but it's treated much different.
Jerry, thank you very much for the conversation, your perspective, and that's what a Harbour Strong conversation looks like.